My name is Eric Jones, and I'm a member of the Frederick Council Literacy Board. It isn't necessary for you to know all the rules of grammar when working with your students. With most students, you will be teaching grammar in the context of your lessons. We may not always know the rules, but because you are a native English speaker, you will know when something doesn't sound right. When your student says, "I no have my book," and you help them learn to correctly say, "I don't have my book," you have taught them grammar. In this topic, we will give you examples of how to use communication to teach correct grammar using modeling, substitution drills, and information grids. Children absorb vocabulary and grammar together as they learn to communicate. When adults are learning a second language, they also learn best when they are communicating. One difference, however, between learning language as a child and as an adult is that adults look for patterns and will try to fit the new information into what they already know about language. Sometimes that's useful, and sometimes that just mixes them up, because the word patterns and sentence structures can be quite different from one language to the next. In English, we say, "I have a red apple." A student who speaks Italian would want you to say, "I have an apple red," because that is the correct word order in Italian. You may simply have to tell them that this is just how we say it in English and give lots of opportunities for practice. We use the correct form automatically, but a simple rule, if you need one, would be that English, the modifier, comes before the noun. Language learning takes place best through real communication, with a focus on using the language, so we teach grammar using the communicative approach by modeling it in context. For example, we teach the usage of the articles a and an by using them when we introduce new words. For example, an apple, a carrot, a loaf of bread. We model examples of correct verb tense by talking about what the student did yesterday or what will happen tomorrow. Because our focus is on using English, not teaching rules, we keep explanations very simple. For example, by saying we use "an" before a word beginning with a vowel. You have a handout called ESL Teaching Methods, Teaching Grammar Creatively, which provides a good review of this approach. The teaching techniques and activities in the handbook also work well for basic literacy students. Most native speakers communicate correctly long before they get formal instruction in grammar in school. Grammar is integrated into conversation and vocabulary lessons in published materials. However, it can be useful to use visual cues in body language, especially hand gestures, to help when modeling good grammar and correct language construction. Let's use the example of teaching contractions, because that's the way we usually speak and what your students will hear most often. For example, we can use a hand gesture to illustrate how words are combined to form a contraction, as you see in this slide. When teaching contractions, you can indicate two words by using two fingers in a V shape. Bring them together to indicate a contraction. Say the two words with your fingers apart, "it is," and then say the contraction, "it's." As you move your fingers together, it shouldn't take long for the student to make the connection. In some cultures, the V hand sign may be offensive. In that case, you can hold up one hand for "it" and the other hand for "is," and bring them together for "it's." You can also make a written visual aid showing contractions if you are teaching them as part of a reading or writing lesson. These written examples illustrate how two words are combined into one, using a V shape similar to the hand gesture. This was really useful with my student who struggled with making connections between words she was hearing and words on the page. She was a good reader and could recognize a contraction when she saw one, but not when she heard one. Dictation is really challenging for her, and she had a hard time hearing contractions such as will or it's. I would use this hand gesture to give her a little clue. Her eyes would light up, and she would then know how to spell the word exactly right. Here we show a script for a substitution drill using a visual cue for teaching the contraction it's as a grammar lesson. We modeled the sentence using the contraction and then modeled the sentence both without and with the contraction to show the student that the meaning is the same. This type of substitution drill can be used with teaching any kind of language structure at any level. Here is a substitution drill to practice contractions in a sentence using only vocal cues. Once the student learns the sentence structure, simply substitute another vocabulary word for the student to use in the sentence. There are a lot of other ways to use substitution drills. These are a few examples for practice with pronouns, plural and singular nouns, and pronouns, and so forth. The grammar can become more complex as the student makes progress. You can use information grids to demonstrate or model different grammar concepts. Grids help students visualize how English is structured. First, read the sentence to model the correct grammar, and then give your student an opportunity to practice. Try to choose subjects to talk about things that are relevant to your student. Ask your student to talk about their family, for example. My husband likes pizza. He likes salad. I like rice. You can easily find games online for practicing grammar both in and out of class. The list on the left of the slide suggests some search terms for online games or activities you can do with students. The image on the right is a board game that's included in your grammar activities handout. You can adapt this for almost any grammar topic. You can work these games together, or your student can practice on their own. You can display the worksheet on your screen during online lessons, or you can send a copy to your student so that you can each work with a board in your own location. The Tutor Information Book also has many grammar activities for you to choose from. Think up your own ways to incorporate little grammar lessons. For example, there was a student who repeatedly said to her tutor, "My husband say me," or "My daughter say me." So the tutor designed the lesson to teach the correct phrase, "My husband told me," and "My daughter told me." But the student continued to use the incorrect phrase. Then her tutor wrote the word "told" on an index card and put it on the desk between them. Whenever her student said, "He say me," the tutor just raised her eyebrows and looked towards the "told" card without saying a word. It took a while, but it became funny to both of them, and eventually the student incorporated the correct phrase into her own speech. You have to know your student to make sure that it's not going to be embarrassing to them, but you can have fun with things like this. You'll find that grammar instruction is mostly integrated into your conversation and vocabulary lessons using real communication and situations. You'll be modeling correct grammar all the time and speaking with your student. and you will recognize correct or incorrect grammar when you hear it. When your student says, "Yesterday, I go to school," you have the perfect teaching opportunity. Grammar instruction is also an integral part of the lessons in your teaching materials. If you are working with more advanced ESL or basic literacy student, they may want or need more explicit grammar lessons and rules. There are plenty of more advanced teaching materials that will guide you through and give the rules you need. Learning correct grammar requires much trial and error. Your lessons are a safe place where your students should feel comfortable trying to say something even when they're not sure if it's correct. As your student expresses themselves, look for things they need to understand better and teach it right then or in an upcoming lesson.